Imagine this. You're walking across your college campus on a sunny afternoon. A handsome, well-dressed young man approaches you. He's got a warm smile, a charming voice, and he seems completely harmless. Maybe he's got his arm in a sling. Maybe he's struggling to carry something heavy. He asks for your help, and because he seems so normal, you say yes. That was the last mistake dozens of young women ever made. His name was Ted Bundy, and to the outside world, he was everything a young man should be. Educated, charismatic, politically connected, and destined for greatness. But behind that smile lived something that most of us will never fully understand. Today, we're not just going to tell you what Ted Bundy did. We're going to go deeper than that. We're going to try to understand what was happening inside the mind of one of America's most dangerous serial killers. Stay with me, because this story is going to disturb you. Theodore Robert Bundy was born on November 24, 1946, in Burlington, Vermont. And right from the very beginning, his life was built on a lie. His mother, Louise, was unmarried when she gave birth to him, something that carried enormous social shame in the 1940s. So the family made a decision. Ted would be raised by his grandparents, and everyone, including Ted himself, would be told that his grandparents were his real parents. His own mother would pretend to be his older sister. Think about that for a second. The very foundation of this child's identity was a carefully constructed deception. Ted grew up in Philadelphia with his grandparents. By most accounts, his grandfather Samuel was a difficult man, described by family members as controlling, aggressive, and prone to violent outbursts. His grandmother suffered from severe depression and rarely left the house. When Ted was around 3 years old, his Aunt Julia woke up from a nap to find herself surrounded by kitchen knives, all arranged neatly around her bed. Standing beside her was little 3-year-old Ted, smiling. That image has haunted criminologists for decades. Eventually, Louise moved to Tacoma, Washington, and married a man named Johnny Bundy, who adopted Ted and gave him his last name. But Ted never connected with his stepfather. He felt like an outsider in his own home, and somewhere along the way, Ted Bundy discovered the truth about who he really was. He was not the son his grandparents claimed. He was illegitimate, hidden, a secret. Psychologists who later studied Bundy believed this discovery, this shattering of his identity, planted the first seeds of something very dark inside him. Welcome to this psychology break. Before we go any further, let's talk about something important. Most people assume that serial killers are born evil, that they come into this world already broken. But the science of criminal psychology tells us a more complicated story. Researchers who study violent offenders consistently find certain patterns in their early lives: childhood trauma, identity confusion, a deep sense of rejection, and a need to control situations where they felt powerless. Ted Bundy had almost all of these. He grew up not knowing who his real father was. He was raised believing a lie. He felt intellectually superior to those around him, but emotionally disconnected from everyone. And he developed what psychologists call a fantasy life, a secret inner world where he had complete power and control. FBI profiler Robert Keppel, who spent years studying Bundy, described him as someone who began fantasizing about domination and violence long before he ever acted on those impulses. The terrifying truth about Ted Bundy is not that he was a monster from birth. It's that he was a human being who, step by step, year by year, allowed the darkest parts of himself to take over. The crimes begin. By the early 1970s, Ted Bundy appeared to be thriving. He was studying law. He worked on political campaigns. He volunteered at a suicide prevention hotline, where, ironically, he was described by coworkers as kind, caring, and empathetic. But in January of 1974, something changed. By 1974, young women started disappearing. The first known attack happened in Seattle's University District, where Bundy broke into a young woman's basement apartment in the middle of the night and attacked her while she slept. She survived, barely, with permanent brain damage. Over the next several months, young women vanished across Washington and Oregon at the rate of roughly 1 per month. College students, bright young women with their whole lives ahead of them. Bundy's method was deeply calculated. He would sometimes wear a fake cast on his arm or leg or hobble on crutches. anything to appear vulnerable and non-threatening. He would approach a woman in a public place, ask for help carrying something to his car, and then the witnesses who survived described him as handsome, polite, and completely disarming. He even gave his name. "Hi, I'm Ted." In July 1974, in one of the most brazen acts of the entire case, Bundy abducted 2 women in broad daylight from a crowded public beach at Lake Sammamish State Park. Dozens of witnesses saw him. They gave police a description. A composite sketch was published in newspapers. Multiple people who knew Bundy, including his own girlfriend, looked at that sketch and recognized him. Immediately, multiple people called the police, but detectives couldn't believe it. A clean-cut law student working in crime prevention? There must be some mistake. But there was no mistake. There was no mistake. There was absolutely no mistake. As the disappearances continued, investigators from multiple states began to realize they might be hunting the same man. In August 1974, Bundy relocated to Salt Lake City, Utah to attend law school, and the murders followed him there. Then to Colorado, then to Idaho. In August 1975, a Utah Highway Patrol officer pulled over a Volkswagen Beetle driving suspiciously through a residential neighborhood in the early morning hours. Inside was Ted Bundy, also inside the car, handcuffs, a ski mask, rope, and a crowbar. Bundy was arrested. And then the pieces started falling into place. A young woman named Carol Durant came forward. Bundy had approached her in a shopping mall, pretending to be a police officer, lured her to his car, and tried to handcuff her. She had managed to escape. She identified Bundy immediately from a police lineup. Hair fibers found in his car were matched to multiple victims. Evidence connected him to cases across several states. And suddenly, the friendly, charming, politically connected law student became the most wanted man in America. But Ted Bundy wasn't done yet. In 1977, while facing murder charges in Colorado, Bundy did something extraordinary. He escaped twice. The first time, he jumped from a second-story courthouse window. He was recaptured 6 days later. The second time, he sawed through the ceiling of his jail cell, crawled through the walls of the building, walked out the front door, and disappeared into the night. He was free for over a month, and he used that freedom to kill again. Florida and the end. The final chapter of Ted Bundy. In January 1978, Bundy arrived in Tallahassee, Florida. He rented a room near Florida State University under a fake name. In the early hours of January 15th, he entered a sorority house on campus and attacked 4 women as they slept. 2 of them died. The attacks took less than 15 minutes. A few weeks later, he abducted and murdered a 12-year-old girl named Kimberly Leach. He was finally arrested in February 1978, pulled over by a police officer in Pensacola for driving a stolen car. As the officer placed him in the patrol vehicle, Bundy said quietly, "I wish you had killed me." And on January 24, 1989, Ted Bundy was executed in the electric chair at Florida State Prison. His last words were for his attorney and a minister, "Give my love to my family and friends." So what do we make of Ted Bundy? Psychiatrists who examined him couldn't fully agree, but the majority pointed toward antisocial personality disorder, what most people know as psychopathy. He scored 39 out of 40 on the standard psychopathy checklist. He had no genuine empathy, no real remorse. The charm that everyone saw was not warmth. It was a performance. A mask he wore because he understood that appearing normal was the most powerful weapon he had. What's most disturbing about Bundy is not the violence, it's the ordinariness. He worked alongside crime writers and police officers. He answered crisis hotlines. He was trusted, liked, even admired, and the entire time he was hiding something that most of us cannot comprehend. FBI agent William Hagmeyer, who spent years interviewing Bundy on death row, perhaps said it best. Bundy told him that murder for him was not just violence. It became possession. "They become a part of you," Bundy said, "and you are forever one." That is the mind of a psychopath, not a monster from a movie. A human being, with a human face and a human voice, who had simply lost, or perhaps never had, the ability to see other people as real. Ted Bundy confessed to 30 murders. Investigators believe the true number could be far higher. 30 confirmed lives ended, families destroyed. And a question that criminal psychologists are still trying to answer today. How does someone become this? There's no easy answer. But understanding the question is the first step. Thank you for watching Criminal Psychology Files. If this video made you think, share it, leave a comment below, and subscribe for more deep dives into the darkest corners of the human mind. Stay curious, stay safe.